Welcome to Data in 10, where we unpack big ideas in data, AI, and analytics, all in under 10 minutes. I'm Anurag, joined by my co host Medha. Today, we are cutting through the AI hype. Everyone is experimenting with AI tools, but very few organizations are seeing the real measurable value. We want to delve into why is that.
Exactly. We are seeing huge excitement, massive investment, but also hesitation, confusion, and in many cases, stalled impact. To help us unpack this, today we have Kostas with us. Kostas is a product leader with over 15 years of experience working at the intersection of finance and AI. He's currently based in Cyprus, driving AI innovation at a large brokerage firm. Before this move, Costa spent most of his career in London, including key roles in investment banking at a leading financial institution, combining financial expertise with the passion for data driven problem solving. His approach is refreshingly pragmatic. Whether optimizing processes or unlocking insights from data, he's committed to harnessing AI in ways that truly move the needle and tackle the real business problems, not just use AI for the sake of AI. Welcome, Costas.
Hi guys, very nice to meet you.
We are very excited to host you. So, Kostas, we want to begin with the topic of AI enablement versus AI professionalism. And AI professional is someone building the systems, designing models, and creating pipelines. But AI enablement is slightly different. It's about empowering professionals across functions to use AI intelligently, to automate routine work, improve decisions, and enhance productivity. Today, staying relevant isn't just about building models, it's about knowing how to work effectively with AI. So, in your perspective, what's the goal for most of the people? And should they aim to become AI builders or AI enabled decision makers?
Yeah, thanks, Anurag. I think it's important I will make this distinction. I look at it from the lens of the jagged frontier. What we mean with that is that for any profession, there's a boundary where AI excels, and we're better off leaving AI to the hard lifting. And there's a jagged edge where it fails, and we need to have a human on the loop to take over. That really differentiate people into two main categories, the centaurs and the cyborgs. Centaurs are the mythological creatures that are half men, half horses. Likely on the AI domain, this is people who have a clear set of tasks that AI is going to do and a clear set of tasks that humans will do. Although that might work for a lot of the cases, that's not the best way for some use cases. So hence the idea of a cyborg is introduced, which basically integrates AI into their workflow like a complete continuous loop. So when we're talking about AI enablement, we're talking more about finding out the opportunities to use AI where it excels and being able to understand where the jagged frontier is and when we need to take over.
Thank you, Kostas. I love your answer, specifically in context of the demarcation of the tasks, knowing when AI comes into the workflow, whereas when human comes back into the loop.
That was very insightful. But if we were to zoom out at the enterprise level, so many companies today have introduced what you call chatbots for internal queries or have given their teams access to generative AI tools for drafting reports in all sort of use cases. And they call themselves AI enabled. Do you think that it's truly AI enablement, or is it just organizations overestimating what they call AI enabled? And could you share with us what does successful AI enablement actually look like in your own experience?
Yeah, we shouldn't treat AI different to any data project that all the organizations must have been involved in through the years, right? So the three fundamentals of any data project is the data integrity, the data governance, and then the strategic alignment. In terms of the data integrity, if you're not going to use any data from the organization, then you're just replacing one of the existing LLMs out there. I don't think you are adding any value. If you are to use the organizational data, so proprietary information, that needs to be of good quality, governed well. Once we start running into, dirty data, ungoverned data, siloed data within the organization, then what you're effectively doing is you're building a penthouse on a swamp. So that's not going to move fast. Then you need to have the governance framework in place, the policies, the procedures, the teams, a human on the loop when things are about to go wrong. And the last one for successful enablement is the strategic alignment. If the AI ideas, the AI innovations, the AI ideations are not linked to a strategic KPI or OKR, then you're not really doing AI. You're just basically playing around with the tools and doing it as a hobby. Every idea, every other project is completely aligned to what the business wants to do, and AI should be no different. AI is a technology that should serve one of the strategic alignment. Now, because AI became like a wrecking ball a couple of years ago, people often run to create metrics that are meant to measure the enablement, but in reality, they're only measuring access to those tools. So a lot of the companies we've seen, the measures, the metrics they're using for enablement are access to new tools, number of active users, number of experiments. This is not really the way to scale AI within the organization. And really what they should be tracking is other KPIs, which again are linked to business objectives, but also are measuring how AI is transforming the business. So really measuring the value, not the activity.
So, Kostas, what you're really saying is that AI enablement at the enterprise level isn't about just giving people access to the tools, but it's also about our organizations actually ready to use it. Because if the data, governance, and the strategy aren't aligned, then the companies aren't enabled yet. They're just experimenting.
Correct.
So, Kostas, let's talk a little bit about the impact of AI on jobs. A lot of the public narrative around AI focuses on fear, roles disappearing, skills becoming obsolete. From where you sit, working closely with the organizations, how do you actually see roles changing? And are jobs going to be replaced or they're quietly being reshaped? What do you think?
That's $1 million question. I think in reality we don't know, right? In reality, no one knows. There's think tanks that think by 2027, which is only next year, AI will be nearly sentient, so we're going to get near general artificial intelligence, in which point things get really hard for skills. If we want to be pragmatic, though, I'll take you back to the Excel paradigm, right? What we expect AI to do is to, yes, place monotonous work. There's no question. I don't think anyone is going to be sad by replacing the monotonous tasks that they currently do, and the focus should be moved more decision-making, strategic work that is at the moment at least unable to be done by AI. Excel didn't replace accountants. Accountants still exist. We basically just have a different way of measuring what a good accountant is, what an excellent accountant is, and that is not by typing, hitting the buttons on the calculator as they used to. So similar to AI, we expect AI to replace the way, there's going to be new qualities that will be required, but I don't think the AI will immediately replace and eliminate all of the jobs. It will basically fundamentally shift the baseline of what competence looks like for a lot of the roles.
That is very insightful, Kostas. That baseline change is actually something which I can resonate with quite a lot. In that context, Andrew NG has also said that AI will not replace your job, but somebody who is using AI will.
Correct.
Even this line is very hazy, many people are wondering, like, what does this mean? What do we need to do? And from the stats across the baseline change that we are seeing in context of, let's say, Indian IT, which is very well known for mass hiring. In the past year, they hired only 17 net new employees versus the 17,000 employees that they hired in the year previous to the current. So I think that's a massive, massive shift. And another thing that came out was that the proportion of jobs for the junior professionals, like they contributed to only 15% of the net new hires, whereas the mid-career professionals were 65%. So it's also on the level of expertise that the professionals have. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, definitely we have seen a shift globally, not just in India, at new hires for junior employees. Things are changing so fast right now that it's hard to predict. But just to put it in perspective, a lot of the jobs that are being replaced now didn't exist 10 years ago, right? So we are in a constant cycle of job generation and regeneration and repointing. I understand not everyone can be retrained to, as we said in the beginning, become a data scientist or be able to write and fine tune LLMs, but there's definitely opportunity out there to use AI. There's no code required to, if you have an idea to go and build your fintech, for example, from scratch with very few people, right? So we are definitely seeing a shift, but as much as AI is being a risk for those people, at the same time, it opens an opportunity to do their passion project at scale.
Thank you, Kostas. Completely aligned with you.
I think from the whole conversation, we can clearly find two things out, that there are two things happening at once. In some cases, roles are evolving, and in others, people are losing their jobs. That's a hard reality these days. And some resistance in those cases is definitely understandable. But we are also seeing pushback even when roles are being reshaped, as you said. So, why do you think that is? And again, at the enterprise level, what separates organizations that manage that transition responsibly from those that struggle?
Well, first of all, human are beasts of habit, right? So we don't like changes when it comes to to our professional career. People like to learn a trade and do it for the rest of their life. That is completely unachievable anymore, though, right? I think people are not necessarily pushing back because of the technology itself. It has to do more with the loss of agency. So people are not necessarily anti-innovation. I think people are just pro-survival. In my view, there's two reasons why people could be resistant or hesitant on adopting AI. The first one is a black box, right? ChatGPT or any of the platforms is just a website where you go ask questions and it basically knows everything. And ChatGPT is not even something hard to interpret, right? There is much more complicated neural networks that even specialists are not able to open and understand what's happening under the hood. So people are not comfortable to go from the calculator on the side of the desk to something that is all encompassing, knows everything, and has all the answers. Um, the second problem is the management tax, which becomes an invisible workload. What happens once you adopt AI and you're able to produce 2 reports at the same time as you used to be able to produce 5 reports? You get rewarded with 5 new reports or 20 new reports, right? So people are going to be hesitant about the way they use AI because it will become a penalty tax for people working faster, but also for management, and then AI will become a burnout accelerator where everyone is just producing content all the time that is, no one really reviews and scrutinizes.
That's very interesting. I really like how you've reframed this resistance as a question of agency rather than the technology itself. Because I think it's, as you said, it's less about the tools themselves and more about whether people feel that they are in control. And perhaps then the lever in this case is education and awareness, building that AI literacy, setting up the AI fluency programs, and protecting people from that invisible workload that AI definitely creates today.
Yes, Kostas, I think those are some great insights and they are very relatable as well, especially if we are in the organization and if we look inwards. But I would also like to touch upon the resistance looking outwards. People who are still trying to find a job, junior professionals, people who are in college, for instance, if they want to get into tech, they start learning Python and then they are coming up to steep speed on the LLMs. And then it's about deeper, neural networks. But then at the same time, the junior level jobs are shifting and are reducing a lot. Keeping up to speed, it's like running on a treadmill, which is constantly running and it's not stopping. And sometimes this might feel like a paralysis. So just wanted to ask you, what is your advice to junior professionals and people who are in the college or are looking at their dream jobs? What are some tangible steps that they can take in order to be relevant in the market?
Yeah, fantastic question. So careers will become non-linear, right? So I think what people were used to is a very clear career trajectory. I work hard, join an organization, work hard. 5 years later, I'm promoted manager. Another 4 years later, I'm promoted again to senior manager, right? Very, very often at the same firm. What we will see now is a lot of careers become non-linear, where you need to have side steps upwards and downwards to reskill, whether it's soft skills or hard skills, technical skills, it doesn't matter. But we are experiencing, especially again within the data domain, we are experiencing people that take a day off to go and study something, come back, join, do a lateral move, work in a different industry.
Yeah, there's absolutely no limit to aspirations now because whatever you want to do, you can do with the help of AI. AI can let you do and become that person or become that professional. And I think for the junior professionals, the advice would also be to focus on these skills a lot more, like adaptability, flexibility, curiosity, and just be passionate and have the courage to pursue what they want to pursue rather than focusing on a linear trajectory. Thank you for
And
that.
and part of your CV really should be a, I don't know, GitHub repository or some sort of repository where you can showcase the work you've done for your passion. It doesn't have to be professional. It could be about your passion about celebrities. It doesn't really matter as long as you apply that curiosity and you evidence the steps you've taken to experiment and play with the new technology than how you would have used them on a professional setting.
All right, so let's move to the topic of data debt. A term we hear more often now is data debt, messy data, fragmented systems, and unclear ownerships. So, Costas, how big a role does data debt play in terms of successful implementation of projects in production?
Back to the point we made, if your data is a swamp and you try to build a penthouse, you try to build a Ferrari without a real engine. Now, a pattern we're seeing is this is largely ignored because people want to do things really, really fast with AI, right? I think there's two reasons why it's ignored. The first one is people think AI can solve everything, right? There is solutions out there that promise they're going to fix the data, they're going to do automatic AI governance, they can find out data quality issues and fix them, etc., etc. What we really need to go is go back to the fundamentals uh, and find out why the data was broken in the first time and fix that root cause instead of trying to apply an AI layer on top of it. The second one is what we call the dashboard illusion. People haven't worked on business intelligence would have known that. There's thousands of hours of manual heroics from data analysts who prepare data to go into dashboards presented to management. In reality, the data between the finance department and the operations department hardly ever reconciles on face value, and there's extra layers and extra processes and extra adjustments, manual adjustments that need to be done to reconcile the two. So what management sees is the flashy dashboards that have taken hours and hours, if not hundreds of hours, to generate, and that means the data must be ready for AI adoption. When in reality, that's far from the truth. And as people say, if you train the AI on rubbish data, it's rubbish in, rubbish out. You're only going to get inaccurate data.
Those are some really brilliant insights. Also, data debt battle, from how I have experienced, is not just technical battle, but it's sometimes a political battle as well. And it is because when we think about messy data, owning that data also means owning all of its problems, all of the transformation that we might have to do. And for a long, long time, it would be like nobody would clap for you until everybody would clap for you, until you would transform that data really well. So the incentive structure in the organization also needs to change. How we think about owning things also needs to change. What do you think about that?
AI, a lot of organizations are treating AI like a technology experiment, right? In my view, AI is not necessarily only a technology project. It is definitely a dependency on the technology department to implement, but it goes way beyond that. It goes across operations, it goes across finance, technology, and definitely at the management level to cascade down what's the impact we expect to have, not only for external facing applications, but also internally. Who needs to do that to make sure that the AI implementation is successful and it's safe? I read a great line that said AI is a technology that's looking for a business use case. So it's a fantastic technology. We're trying to kind of like shoehorn it into everything, which should really be seen as a fundamental change to the way we do business.
It has to be business case driven, not the other way around, is what you're saying. Great. All right, Kostas. So let's talk a little bit about the ROI measurement on AI, because this is where many AI conversations get uncomfortable. So, from your experience, what's the biggest mistake companies make when trying to measure the return on AI?
Yeah, I think we mentioned the first major mistake, which is treating AI like a technology project. I think the second major issue with ROI from AI is, as we said, measuring activity. How many licenses, how many projects, how many innovations, how many products we have instead of measuring impact. What we really need to be looking is, if we're using AI, how much faster and how much more accurate can we be to make the same decisions, or how fast can we make better decisions? Going back to the discussion we had about the a junior analyst, so a good ROI would be, can this analyst now perform the job of a senior analyst? And if yes, how fast and with what accuracy? I think that's when we start seeing a good measurable.
So, what you're saying is that there could be direct and indirect impacts of AI, and we just don't have to focus on the direct impact, but we have to actually move to some of the indirect impact metrics, which often make more sense in context of the enterprise.
Yeah, the way I think is it's closing the loop. So you innovate something, but you need to embed that back into the processes so you can actually see its impact in the future as well, and not just like a one time impact. That was extremely insightful and very, very clear, Kostas. Moving beyond the AI hype to what actually drives impact in today's world. So thanks a lot for that.
Thanks again, Kostas, for joining us today. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share, and follow Data Intent for more such conversations. Until next time, stay curious and stay data driven.